Good afternoon. This afternoon we have a candidate debate, I guess, discussion between the incumbent county auditor, Kyle Rieman, and his challenger, Alan Bel-Long. And I'm going to just summarize this, excerpting small portions of what's on the county website about the Boone County Auditor. The Boone County Auditor is responsible for establishing, implementing, and monitoring the accounting and budgeting systems of Boone County, for preparing and submitting a proposed annual budget to the county commission, and for overseeing accounts payable activities, and evaluating the condition of county budgets and funds. And a lot more detail, but that's basically what the position does. Format this afternoon, and we do need to be finished by exactly 1 o'clock. And so we have that hour. Going to give each of you 5 minutes to introduce yourselves, talk about your background, why you're running for office, etc. And then after that, we'll open it up to questions. Questions should address both candidates and be answerable by both candidates. And we'll give you about 3 minutes apiece on the questions. So with that, let's start, I'd say alphabetically with Alan Bel-Long.
Oh, all right. Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be a part of this. And I really appreciate everybody being here. So I am Alan Bel-Long. I'm running for the Boone County Auditor position. I I grew up in Kearney, Missouri. I was a Boy Scout throughout my youth, and became an Eagle Scout before graduating high school in 2003. I went to college up in Maryville, Missouri, at Northwest Missouri State, and graduated there with a management and information systems degree, with a minor in computer networking. Um, with those degrees, there was a lot of accounting courses and like a business finance course, and some like international business courses that I was really interested in, and those were some of my favorite classes. Um, and so, well, so budgeting and finance has really been a really big interest of mine, and getting into like computer software was another interest of mine, and kind of combined the two when I started out my career at Shelter Insurance. So right out of college, I started out at Shelter and worked there for just under 10 years. Um, and uh, so I did a lot of the balancing and work with like cash runs and general ledgers, and all the finance and payment processing. I was part of the payment services team, and became a lead on the balance handling, which was just managing the general ledger to the cash runs to make sure that all the payments came through successfully, and that everything matched up, and there wasn't any like squeaking by of any pennies or anything like that, which we had penny out of balances quite often. Um, and uh, I wrote a lot of the documentation to kind of create a new out of balance process that is, I assume, still in process today. Um, and after Shelter Insurance, I went into doing like contract work, uh, which was still with software development in the financial sphere. I did a lot of this because of my growing family at the time. I'm a father of really of 9 kids. I have 4 biological kids and 5 step kids. My wife of now 10 plus years. That's where all the 5 step kids came in. And the age ranges are between 19 as our oldest, and twin 12-year-olds as our youngest. And they're all sandwiched in between there. And they definitely give us a run for our money. Um, and During the contract work, I learned a lot of like balancing and finance and sending of like claims and processing, even with like medical and such. So I did several things. I worked with Blue Cross and Blue Shield. I worked with Wipro, which you may not be familiar with, but that was a medical claims processing firm. And a lot of those processing things were really financial stuff that was just right up my alley. After my contract work, I ended up getting well, my kids got old enough, so I didn't need to be home as much anymore. And it made it a little bit easier on me to kind of get out of the house. And so, I'm sorry, were you saying something? Sorry. I just saw your mouth moving. I didn't know if you needed to ask a question or stop me or something. So,
You
anyway,
got about 1 minute left.
okay. All right. So, after I did the contract work, I ended up moving into doing the county work. I did actually move to Columbia back in 2007 when I started in shelter. But beside that, I got into the county, and I really, actually, when I got to Columbia in the first place, I was really interested in politics and trying to get involved, and like attending caucuses and going to any kind of meetings that I could get a hold of. And that kind of fell off whenever I was doing contract work and catering to my family more so. And now that I'm getting back into government work and I'm in the financial space, I really felt like this was my chance to show my worth and show what I can do with the financial space with the Boone County Auditor.
Okay, thank you. Kyle?
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah. Kyle Rieman, Boone County Auditor. Um, so I've grew up in Warsaw, Missouri, which is where Truman Lake starts, what I kind of tell everyone. I am kind of a true believer type when it comes to the public sector side. Started going to school board meetings when I was 14 because I was frustrated they were buying an AstroTurf, but my science book was outdated, um, and felt like that was sparked some of my interest. I wasn't always sure exactly what I wanted to do, but definitely in high school, but went to school down at Missouri State and ended up with 2 degrees in sociology and economics and was actively involved in learning how a bureaucracy works at Missouri State University by going to faculty senate, staff senate, and student government for all 4 years, and actively kind of just saw how policies were made, how budgets work, just kind of a little microcosm from there. I wanted to do an internship and ended up doing an internship with the ranking minority member on House Budget, Sarah Lampe. And that's kind of what started my budget career back in 2011. From there, I've worked as a budget and policy analyst for the state of Missouri, both on the executive side and the legislative side, with kind of an emphasis on what I call the nuts and bolts of government, how HR, IT, all the bureaucracy works and communicates together, how the service departments come together. Um, and also was the local government analyst. So I dealt with, road districts, ambulance districts, counties, cities, of all types, and followed all that legislation, um, until I became the director for the Joint Committee on Legislative Research. So that's the committee that does the fiscal notes for all the proposed legislation. So I managed a team of 15 where we would again review pretty much every bill that they had requested a fiscal note on, sometimes on tight turnarounds. And you built a lot of models, cost models, and tools and things they still use at the state today to help kind of figure out how to implement some of these programs or make sure that they're staying in balance and in check. Um, I also worked as the budget officer, which is like the budget director for the city of Columbia. And yeah, have been the sitting Boone County auditor for the last 4 years, where we have, been working on implementing $35 million of ARPA money and distributing that, which is hopefully, well, it is coming to an end at the this year, and so we're on the final tail of that. We've been doing a lot at Boone County. We're currently working on our 800 megahertz radio uh, implementation, both on the infrastructure side and then also with doling out a bunch of radios to our public safety partners. Um, we have the child care center that we're actively building and working on, which is going to be the first of its kind. And that's a whole conversation that would take an hour on itself, because since we're the kind of cutting edge on that, and we're working on just everything. The auditor's office touches pretty much everything. It's the CFO, if you will, of the county, but also reviews all the policy, data analysis, keeps track of everything that's happening down in Jeff City. I'm down there a lot, but again, with my legislative background, working on things to try to minimize, the impact that it has to our community. Um, I also have several small businesses. I started a real estate holdings company in 2013 and had up to 38 rentals at one point. And then when the market was doing well, liquidated some of those for my wife and I to build a Hexagon Alley, which is down on Ninth and Cherry. It's a board game bar and cafe. Um, and we have two kids that are 4 and 2, and two dogs and two cats, and um, we just stay pretty busy. But yeah, I'm real excited to be here and continue the work that we're doing here in Boone County, and happy to answer any questions anyone may have about my background or what the future holds for Boone County.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions from the viewers? We have people here who ask good questions. We're waiting for them, but in the meantime, I will start by asking, what do you see as major challenges for Boone County financially over the next, say, 4 years, and why do you think you are best suited to address those? And I'll start with Kyle.
Thanks. Um, yeah, so unfortunately, I think many people are aware of it, the federal government and the state government's priorities have definitely shifted in the last few years and are in a place of wanting to push costs off to local governments. If they're doing that in a way of pushing it primarily in health, uh, you know, and public safety, because those are fairly inelastic, or things that we still have to provide. And so that is definitely a challenge. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the Boone County Commission's decision to put the 3/8 sales tax on the November ballot, which we can talk about if we want, but there's definitely going to be some challenges ahead, regardless of not just public safety, not just about a jail. Why I'm best suited for that? I've been following state budgets, sales, doing sales tax models, revenue projections, cost savings, trying to lead process improvements my entire career. 15 years, having the small business background helps a little bit, in my opinion, to be able to know, like, oh, I deal with contractors, I deal with and know kind of what is out there, and how to maneuver, and does this pass kind of the sniff test, and provide oversight to all the different administrative authorities. It's a constant conversation, frankly, in the auditor's office as we're reviewing payments and undergoing these large projects. Um, and it's an area where tech is definitely a growing cost with the AI boom. We're seeing our contracts on service, our service contracts in IT go up tremendously. Unfortunately, building materials is going up tremendously, and then there's just general inflation. And so there's often this conversation, because most of our revenue comes from sales tax, that, well, if inflation goes up, your sales tax revenue should go up and keep pace with that. That's somewhat true, but not entirely, partly because we also get subsidized or paid by some of these state and federal programs that are going away. And also the areas that we have spending is not exactly the same as the general inflation. So, like I said, mentioned, building materials for roads, bridges, etc., um, professional services for engineering, all that is growing at a greater rate than the general inflation, unfortunately. And so it's definitely going to be a challenge, but the county thankfully has pretty healthy reserves. We try to make sure of that. And I am, I think we're constantly having a conversation about what we can do to make sure that we're staying in a good financial space for the future and are not just looking 1 year ahead at a time.
Thank you. Alan?
Yeah. So I would echo that also that 3/8 cent sales tax is, since it's an upcoming thing that is going to be on the ballot coming in August, that is going to be one of the challenges that we do face. I know that in the county that there are tons of different funds that are spread across all the departments in order to make sure that everybody gets the funding that they need in order to administer the services that they provide. And I believe that I would be the best candidate for that, just because of the fact that I am a trustworthy person. I am an Eagle Scout, which is part of that trustworthiness. I've always been kind of an advocate for justice, which my kids can attest to. They may not be happy with a lot of the things that I come to the decision to, but ultimately everybody falls in line and they end up doing what is necessary in order to serve the greater good, in a sense. Um, in that, and that's just like kind of a small section of that. Another issue that I think might be kind of in the county right now, or one of the challenges that may be associated with the auditor's department, is being able to have good relationships across all departments. And currently working at the county, I interact with every single of the elected officials. I have good working relationships with them, and they have all been able to, commend me as far as what I've been able to provide for them and bring that kind of the departments together in a cohesive environment when we're working across departments for certain processing of any kind of like tax collection or processing of money. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. A question from Herb. Herb Hillema.
Thank you for exposing to us some of the diversity in your backgrounds. These things seem very useful to me for this job, for both of you. But regarding accountancy per se, where do you each think you rank? Would you compare yourself to one, Nicole Galloway, and two, Luca Pacioli? Each of you.
Oh, okay. I didn't know who to go first.
Let's start with Alan this time.
Okay. Yeah. So as far as ranking myself, I definitely would put myself as above average, but it's really difficult for me to rank myself since I don't really know everybody. I do believe that there are many people that know more than I do, and I am more than willing to learn from them and be an active listener for any of the policies or ideas that they may have in order to make the best decision from my perspective. I definitely enjoy learning from those that are above me, and I know that there are many that are way smarter than I am. I guess in a rank, I would say that I'm definitely above average, but I can't say for certain where in that range it would be. So I guess for ranking, that would be what I would put. And then as far as uh, the auditors that you had mentioned, I would say that closer to Nicole Galloway. Yeah.
Kyle?
Thank you. I'm again a social scientist, economist, and sociologist by trade, and then most of my background was in budgeting and government accounting, and then small business accounting. Um, I don't have a CPA. Definitely, whenever I ran for my first term, very strong on budget policy and that side of things and had some to learn about the, I guess, finer details that do with the financial audit and the ever-changing rules that are Gatsby, because they're always we're getting ready to implement Gatsby 103 and have stuff coming up on that, and we've implemented Gatsby 101 and 102 in the last few years, and so it's kind of always changing. Uh, I don't honestly know who the second person you mentioned is, but I do know Nicole, and I think Nicole is, you know, I would say when it comes to government accounting at this point, we would probably, she's probably still slightly more experienced because she's got a CPA, but I'm definitely more experienced on all the other aspects of what is the auditor's job, which is, budget, policy, etc. And thankfully I have, a team of four accountants, and definitely have tried to make sure that our team is kind of well-rounded and balanced each other out. And Jake is our resident financial audit and accountant expert, and that it's a whole job just on his own, just to keep up with that pretty much every year and what changes are coming up, and make sure the financial statements are meeting up to snuff with whatever the new standards are.
Thank you. Uh, Ken Rice, welcome back to the meeting. And do you have a question?
Much. Both of you mentioned the 3/8 cents sales tax. And, my thought is with the contentiousness with the different taxation from Columbia is looking to add 1%, the state looking to add who knows what type of percent. Both of those could pass in August. I noticed that the county has moved the 3/8 cents to November. What role and what would you do if the sheriff says he needs that money to build a new jail? What do we do if the constituency says no? And how would you advise the board with that?
Sorry, you trailed off there. How would you advise? And that's the last what I heard, at least.
Do you hear me still? Do you hear me now? I'm sorry about that. How would you
Yep.
advise the sheriff and the
Commission.
council, the commission, as to what to do in that case as the CFO, as you called it?
Yeah,
Kyle.
can I take?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been an ongoing conversation frankly, for the last year. Once we saw out of county start to grow, we went from about 500,000 a couple of years ago to 2.5 million out of county last year to probably going to be at least over 4, hopefully not over 5. But monitoring every month with reporting. Trying to get better data reporting also for the public and to inform the sheriff's office and the commission about where the issue is, because that is the number for just what we're paying other counties to hold, county detainees, but does not include transporting costs, time for our staff, overtime, etc. And so we're actively working on trying to get better reporting for that. Also looking at other alternatives or solutions and things that could happen from both a policy perspective and a budget perspective. Something that so Greene County has the largest jail in the state, and when they were building it, they, for example, had utilized some, I guess, prefabbed temporary housing. That's something that, I'm encouraging both the county commission and the sheriff to look into. I think all options need to be on the table, because the assumption that I have is not that this tax is going to pass, but we do have a real problem that we do need to address. Throughout this budget process, we're definitely going to be kind of taking a look also at what areas we could potentially cut from and it's going to be more of a way of deferring costs. So maybe these vehicles, we don't, we typically might suspend our rule of replacing them every vehicle that's over 100,000 miles and make it like 125,000, and doing the analysis to give those decisions again to the county commission in order to say, here's the pros and cons of doing that. Here's some options that you have. They're not necessarily fun exercises, but that's again a lot of what I I did at the state. When I came in 2011, it was just cut, 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 and go through cut exercises all the time and have to do those types of, okay, we don't love any of these options, but this is the reality of our situation, and let's think about the best way to do that and make the most informed decision possible using data rather than just what we think sounds good or might be the best, which is, my personal pet peeve a lot of times with government, and try to make sure that we're making sound decisions and giving that information and framing that information to our decision makers to help them make those decisions.
Okay, thank you. Alan, question regarding sales tax and interaction with the county commission, I guess, in that regard.
Yeah, so I believe it was to like, how would we address if the measure does not get passed? Is that accurate?
What would be your advice as the CFO, as Kyle called it, of the county?
Sorry, you cut off at the first part of that, so I got the CFO of Boone County. Sorry, man.
Do you hear me better now?
Oh yeah, much better.
Okay. Sorry, sometimes my earbuds. What would be what would be your advice if it doesn't pass to the county commission and the sheriff as to how to deal with that issue? Because you have a true issue, but if it doesn't pass, which it may not because of all the other revenue that everyone out, the city, the state, and everyone else wants, there's a good chance it possibly couldn't pass.
Right. Yeah. So in the event that this does not pass, yes, like you mentioned, there is still a problem. The county is still bleeding money out of the general fund for a lot of these out-of-county jails, or a lot of the out-of-county detainees. And that is a real issue that we need to face. And hopefully the measure does pass, just because then that would actually provide some relief. In the event that it doesn't, not really knowing a lot of how the commission communicates with the auditor's office, and how the sheriff communicates with the auditor's office, I wouldn't be able to directly say exactly what cuts could be made in order to essentially still provide the services that are necessary in order to pay for what is needed. So there would be cuts that would need to be made in order to address that problem, but still allow those things to take place, if that makes sense. So we would still be bleeding that money. It would still have to be paid, and we would have to make cuts elsewhere in order to still provide what is needed, without getting maybe some of the extra bells and whistles with some of the other things. So we would maybe have to delay some other projects in order to continue paying for what is needed for the out-of-county detainees. And until a solution, a more long-term solution, can be found, we would have to continue to move things around in order to make sure that what is needed is taken care of.
Thank you. David Robertson has a question.
Yes, and in the capacity as host, I want to welcome someone else who is a candidate running in the primary, and that's Becky Brewer in the District 44 state representative. She's I'm not sure. Oh yeah, all of her people will be in the county, of course. I'm not sure how much she has in the city, but about in the county. Also, we happen to have the chair, Debbie, and the treasurer, Peter, of the Boone County Democratic Central Committee with us today, and for this very important contest in our county election, our county primary. Let me, having mentioned the city, I'd like to rephrase a question by David Taylor, and either in your experience or in your imagination and hopes, how the auditor helps coordinate between the city of Columbia and the county that often face, mutual interests. And also something about what the county auditor is most busy with. That is, which departments present the biggest financial, I guess, concerns that the auditor has to pay attention to. And this gives us I know some ideas about how the auditor works, but it also lets you tell what kind of things you'd like to do with that office.
And
I'm not
start
sure
with
who goes
Alan.
first.
Start with Alan this time.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I currently don't work directly with the city, but I would imagine that if I were to work with the city, whomever in the city that I would work with, I would try to make any kind of just focus on active listening, understand what they're trying to get at, and also provide my side of what needs to happen in order to come to a cohesive agreement. That way, I mean, so we can be kind of on the same page and kind of give and take a little bit from each side to make sure that all the needs are met for both, or at least as many needs that can be met are met on both sides, to make it as just and equal as possible for those interactions. What I, as far as what department the auditor spends the most time with, I'm not 100% sure on that one. My initial guess would likely be with the sheriff's office, just recently, just because there's a lot of things going on over at the sheriff's office with the new training center. There's the child development center. There's the new sales tax thing that's coming up. I mean, there's a lot of interactions and a lot of things that have been coming through the pipes for the sheriff's office. So I would imagine that at least in this current moment, that the sheriff's office is where a lot of the time is being spent.
Yeah. Well,
Thank you. Yeah, so the city and the county do have a pre-existing working relationship in a lot of different ways. I work with Matthew Liu, and who's the finance director of the city, and Jim McDonald, who's the assistant finance director. I also used to work with them, so have a pre-existing relationship. But we used to do quarterly. It's gotten a little uh, as we've had a lot going on in the last year, fallen off. But we typically have quarterly meetings where we kind of get together and talk about all the things that overlap. Uh, there's a lot of things that the city and county do together that people don't know about. I think most people are aware of, our joint health department where we pay for 33% and they pay for 67%. It is primarily under the city's and operation in terms of their pay structure, their infrastructure, and then we're paying a part of those costs. But we have a joint budget process every year that goes through that. We've had a lot of conversations to make a lot of tough decisions. Both.
yeah. That's okay. Herb has another question. Go ahead, Herb.
I must apologize. I didn't mean to be obscure referring to Pacioli. He was a Venetian management consultant who invented double entry bookkeeping. Do you either of you or both of you have any innovation or changes or improvements that you'd like to call attention to as planned or thought about or hoped for in the work of the county auditor for the next term?
And I'll start with Kyle this time.
You might not. He seems to be frozen. Kyle, can you speak to us?
Yeah, I think he got cut off on the last question there, and then it just
Yes.
went dead.
Okay,
I'm hearing you, Kyle. Go
I
ahead.
can hear you. My apologies. Sorry. My whole
Make
screen-
sure your volume is up. Or you're close to your mic. Yeah. Did you hear the question, Kyle? We're having,
we love technology, don't we?
yeah.
If Kyle can hear, I would suggest he leave the Zoom meeting and then come right back. That will often fix issues like this. What happened was he kind of froze up in the last part of his last comment, and
All right.
I haven't heard from him since. Oh, there you are. Hey.
Sorry, Zoom crashed. I had to control delete and close the program and restart it. My apologies there.
Yep, that often happens with Zoom. Thank you.
Yep,
Do you want to
hopefully.
repeat the question?
We were talking about, I don't know what the last thing you heard me say was, because I kind of kept going there and then I realized everyone was frozen.
We didn't hear anything in response to the question.
Oh, okay.
Did you hear the question?
No,
Was this-
I think, Herb, you need to repeat your question. This is a new one, Kyle.
Oh,
Do you have in mind, either of you or both of you, innovations, improvements, things particularly you'd like to call attention to that you hope to accomplish as change in the next term as county auditor?
sure. I assume that this is, I'm up. Can I finish answering the prior question? Is that all right? Just about the city-county relationship.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, we work. I think what I said is we try to have quarterly meetings to talk about all the things that we do, including the health department. We also have a lot of road agreements, because as the city continues to grow and annex, then they a lot of times might take over county roads, or there's a lot of, we do a lot of road infrastructure work and conversations together. We tried to coordinate on ARPA and some of the ARPA projects. Because we had organizations asking us both for basically the same money or the same project. Sometimes it would only work if both of us went, allocated funds to it. And then what departments do I spend the most time on? Frankly, it's more the internal service departments like HR, IT, facilities. Those touch everything as well, but we're always working with them on how to make sure that we're providing the services that need to meet the different elected and administrative authorities' needs on these projects, and get better checks and on our spending and our processes. And I think that's an area that, to then dovetail into your question, that is the area that I think is, where the work is and will continue to be. Boone County as a whole has definitely grown, and I think the history is that, in my opinion, that we had a very talented group of people for, several decades that were in elected office that ran the county, but they didn't really start centralizing services and trying to find ways to kind of move that together until the last, 15, 20 years. And there's still a lot of improvement that can be done there. And that's something that, coming from the state, that's kind of a slightly more, I guess, evolved or, seasoned bureaucracy. I've got a lot of experience knowing, like, okay, yes, we're doing this, but there's other things that we could be doing to help, fill in some of these holes or make things more effective and more efficient. That, and then, we are going to have to address, as we already kind of talked about earlier, some of the issues that we have just on whatever the upcoming budget situation is from the state and the Fed, and our growing needs to keep the same level of services for the citizens of Boone County.
Alan?
Oh, sorry, I thought he was still finishing the first question and we were moving on to the next one. Okay, so As far as innovations and changes that I would bring to the auditor's office for this term, first and foremost, one of the principles that I live by in the IT space, it's called the KISS principle, which is keep it simple, stupid. So my from my background and knowledge base, I really want to simplify processes and make them more efficient. So simplification can actually make it a lot easier for others to interact with. It could actually make it more understandable for the general public whenever the reports come out for them, just to make things easier to understand for everybody that's involved and make things more efficient and faster from the perspective of the office and the employees that work there. That's just one of the innovations I would bring. A lot of another innovation that I feel like would be necessary is just more cohesiveness with the departments working together and bringing each person in that is necessary for whatever changes or updates or issues need to be brought up, and keep good working relationships in that space.
Okay, Kyle on innovations or changes.
Well, for the sake of time, since my computer messed, that's why I kind of answered that. But sorry if I confused. That's why I was saying, yeah, we definitely have process improvements that we can do and efficiencies, and I think that has to do more with the centralized departments, HR, facilities, purchasing, IT, and then the auditor's office as well, and trying to find ways to, you know, we've got, for example, right now there's still kind of fractions in where we have two different copier vendors, for example. Do we need different copier vendors? Is there efficiencies to be there? We've got almost as many printers as we do employees, and then we also have copiers. That's an example of something that is not exactly sexy to talk about, but it's a way that something that needs to be talked about and is a process improvement that I think we're actively working on. So last year we put all of the copier and printer requests in kind of like a bucket, and then we're working with IT, commission, and purchasing to try and talk about, okay, what are ways that we can maybe improve and create some policy and process to more standardize this, and not have, a bunch of different printers and a bunch of different things all across the county. That's one small example, but there's lots of that kind of work that I think needs to be done, and to help reduce our reliance on having a bunch of different outside vendors, and different terms and things operating different ways, and see what efficiencies we can have by kind of working across all the different offices.
I have a question. The position requires obviously an academic background, and it's preferable if there's also a variety of work experiences that are somewhat related. Both of you have that. And the question I have is, how can the electorate really determine who's got the better background and qualifications? Should this be an elective office, or should it be appointed, say, by the county commission? And kind of adding to that, there's also a county treasurer, which I assume has different duties, but it's a little bit hard to figure out how that interacts. Would it not be? And I realize that under our current charter system, we don't have that option. But ideally, should this situation be the way it is, or would it be more efficient to have it appointed by by the county commission? I'll start with Kyle.
Um, so there are 25 county auditors across the state, and they're in first, second, and fourth class counties. There are a couple appointed ones in charter counties. For example, well, I shouldn't say appointed auditors. St. Louis has done some different stuff. St. Charles has an appointed auditor. I think generally would advocate that it should remain elected primarily for the purpose of its independence, and ability to kind of be a check. We are a check and balance on basically the entire system and structure, and we're here to help make government run and make sure that it's running effectively and efficiently, and provide that support. Sometimes that can involve having some tough conversations with our elected colleagues. And I think if you were to go to an appointed structure, it makes it much more difficult to be able to have those conversations and would potentially lose that independence and check on the structure.
Thank you, Alan.
Yeah, so I really believe that this should be an elected position. And the primary reason that I say that is because anytime that you're wanting to essentially audit an office, most of the time you're not going to want somebody that's just going to be a yes man, that's just going to do everything that the commission wants, everything that whoever is appointing you wants you to do. You want to be able to provide some pushback and provide the right steps and the best steps from a financial perspective to those other elected officials. And the electorate, I think, would be a better position to put those auditors into position instead of an appointed official.
Thank you. David Robinson, and this will be our last question, and it'll start with Alan.
You've been hinting at some of this all the way along, but I'm very concerned about the change in finances that come now that the federal ARPA monies are pretty much running out, and that the state taxing system is totally open to question. If there are big shortfalls or catastrophes that face our county operations, what is the role? What will the role of the auditor be to either help or keep the county on the up and up as it deals with hard financial choices?
So from my perspective, I would say that the county auditor would need to work with the commission and those others that are involved with those decision making in order to provide the best foot forward. So in the event that we start losing funding or something of that nature, letting the general public know, hey, we're running into some issues. We have to address this, and here's what we have. We can do this. We can do this. We could even provide something or even put forward like a vote of some kind that would say, what would you do from the electorate's perspective of would you do it this way or would you do it this way, and then go with like a majority rules. But that would just be just an idea, kind of spitfiring. Most of the time, I think that the conversation would be kind of kept internal with the commission and even with maybe the city to kind of get involved in what decisions would be the best for the county and for the city in that matter, just to make sure that we can provide as many services as possible and provide as many needs as possible without cutting too much from any one particular spot.
Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, this is my life every day. The county auditor serves in the budget process as what I would describe as a weak executive role, right? By November 15th every year, I have to present the proposed budget. That's the same as like the governor's budget, but I don't have any veto power or anything, so the county commission could never even look at it if they don't want to. So of course, try to work with them to provide information and make decisions collaboratively, hopefully, while crafting that budget. But there are also times where there are some tough conversations and decisions that maybe even not all the commissioners are on the same page about, that then need to try and lead through the discussion and data analysis to help inform both the public and the commission on the best way to move forward with our community. That can be everything from whether to fund things, whether which vendors or solutions to go with, or where to cut services, and all that exercise we go through every year through our budget process. And one of the things that I brought to the process that didn't exist before, again, because I have a background, is we basically require all the departments to say, is this a mandatory? Is this a priority? Is this a discretionary item? Or is this like a cost to continue? This is something you're already doing, but the costs are just going up. Is this something that the state, a lawsuit, a judgment, is telling us that we got to do, right? And we look at them in kind of these different buckets and kind of go through the process that way. We have to pay for our mandatories. We have to agree that it's a mandatory. And then after that, we look at, okay, here's what their priorities are, here's what their cost to continue increases, and here's what the discretionary items or the items that maybe they'd like to have, but is not, in my opinion, and it, has a need. So the idea is anything discretionary is above what our current services are, or maybe a different way of providing the same services sometimes as they're looking to transform. For example, the resource management is currently undergoing a new permitting software. That's something that, arguably needed to be done at some point, but it was a discretionary item as terms of when that needed to be done, versus if it was going to be like this thing is going away, that would have made it a mandatory item. Um, so yeah, it is my job. I think that is what you're describing is the process of the county budget officer, and that's what we do every year, and we're going to continue to do that moving forward. And that's part of where, as we're tracking those out of county costs and the state and Fed, we've got a list of everything, all the grants that potentially are going away when they're up for expiring. We're watching everything kind of more, like a hawk, I guess you could say. So.
Okay, we need to wrap up. And so if you could take about 3 minutes apiece, starting with Kyle, why should we reelect you? And then Alan, why should we change auditors and elect you? So we start with Kyle.
Sure, thank you. It's been an honor to serve in this role for the last 4 years. It definitely was a little rocky. Coming in, I only had 3 staff that stayed out of 7. And then came in with ARPA and a lot of other, large changes that was frankly a whirlwind. And I feel like we have a great team. Very proud of our team that we've built over the last 4 years. Um, I'm excited to continue to do the work. The auditor's office is not one you hear about a lot of times, and that's probably a good thing, frankly. It's it's not a flashy office. It's a foundational office, is what I always kind of tell people. And part of our job is to make sure that not only are you not hearing about us, but you're not hearing about a lot of the issue, things getting out of hand into the public, and we're addressing them before, internally, before they bubble up. So, I think I've done a good job in the last 4 years. Helped also secure funding from the state. For the Public Safety Child Care Center and for the training center. And I'm always going, whether it's not really necessarily my decision to embark on those initiatives or not, but I do believe that if that is the decision of the county, that it is my role to try and figure out the way to make it as effective and affordable as possible. And so that's where, helping to secure those funds from the state, which we got, $7.5 million collectively, 5 for one and 2.5 for the other was, a, a, a a big win, frankly, for our community. I think, you know, same thing with a lot of legislation, play. Uh, I think Boone County, we have a lot of talent across our electeds and have a fairly strong presence in the Capitol, but Kenny is more our assessor. There's a lot of property tax reform bills that have been going along. Him and myself definitely work a lot on that. And, he's great. He's the chair of the County Assessors Association Legislative Committee. And then I have the back, I work on it from the County Auditor Association side of things. And we're close. That makes it a little easier, but we also just have a background in doing that. And, what I'm not going to say it's because it's a team effort, but their number one, their second priority was to get property tax reform this past year, and they didn't get anything done. And I think that's widely attributed to because we just tried to make sure and tell them what the facts and the data were as they were trying to do these proposals, and not try and play hide the ball, but explain like this isn't going to work, that's not going to work. If you're going to do it, this is what's going to happen. And I think that that's a valuable asset for Boone County, and I want to continue to serve in not only my role internally, but also that role that we play externally to some degree too, to help protect our community as a whole.
Thank you. Alan, why should we elect you?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I believe that I can bring a very unique and analytical perspective to the auditor's office, which as an auditor, analytics is very, very sought after. It's something that is really required for that office. And I believe that I have a very strong attention to detail. I mean, really with with like software development and everything, a lot of the issues that we encounter, like software bugs or anything, they're pretty hard to find. But then ultimately, when we find those, I mean, it's a sense of euphoria when we find those and fix those. And those things are just part of who I am. I love finding those issues and making people happy in those situations. And I believe that from my perspective, I could give the that unique perspective of analytics and making things work together and work more efficiently.
Well, thank you, both of you. And remember to vote on August the 4th primary. Good luck to both of you. And it's been an interesting hour here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for having us.
Turn it back over to David Robinson.
Yes, we're so happy.